In a majestic palace in the middle of the desert, where the golden rays of the sun danced over the dunes, lived a grand Sheik, Zyan. He was famous for his wealth, authority, and inflexibility. The desert is merciless to those who challenge its rules, and Aisha's family decided to face this challenge. They traveled for days and nights across the vast expanses of sand, enduring the burning heat of the day and the biting cold of the night. After a grueling journey, they finally reached their destination. Aisha's parents were old and could no longer work. As soon as they found a simple place to settle, Aisha set out to look for work in the region. She discovered that the palace needed a maid. She introduced herself to Dona Lamia, the person responsible for recruitment, and got the job, starting work immediately. When Aisha entered the palace, her eyes shone when she saw so much beauty. She never imagined that one day she would be in that incredible place. Used to a simple life, for a moment she worried whether she would be able to do a good job. So, she went to talk to Lamia, the lady who hired her, saying, "I don't think I'll be able to be a good servant here in this beautiful place." But Lamia replied calmly, "Don't worry, Aisha. If you don't know how to do something, I will teach you." With that, Aisha felt calmer. So this young girl, whose beauty was hidden by poverty, began working as a maid in Zyan's palace. During the first month of work, Aisha didn't get too close to Zyan, but watched him from afar, admiring him. She knew that her position in the palace prevented her from dreaming of getting closer to him. But when something unexpected happened, she had to go to the mighty Sheik. A guest of Zyan got wine on his clothes while they were dining in the hall. Zyan was upset because the guest soiled his clothes in his castle. So, he asked for someone who could repair the delicate robe. The housekeeper ran to the kitchen, asking who could remove wine stains from that robe. Aisha, seeing her concern, who was always so kind, said, Madam, I know I can take it back." Dona Lamia was relieved and said, "Phew, how lucky. Come with me." She took Aisha by the hand and led her to Zyan, saying, "Sir, this is your maid, Aisha. She knows how to clean stains." Lamia said when she realized that she was standing in front of Zyan. Aisha was so nervous that she was shaking from head to toe. She was scared, but she couldn't run away, even though she really wanted to. The nobleman showed a wine stain on her tunic and asked her to clean it. With a cloth in hand, she got to work. After a few minutes, she excused herself and showed the nobleman her tunic. The stain was completely gone. In addition to being very beautiful, you are very skilled. It doesn't even look like there was a stain. Great job. Zyan, after praising Aisha's skill, paid attention to the young girl in detail. For a moment, his thoughts went haywire. Oh wow, she's stunning. Seriously, guys. Aisha's beauty was simply incredible. She had a delicate way mixed with a boldness that left Zyan fascinated. Aisha had the courage to take a good look at him, and her heart started to beat faster just seeing him. So, she excused herself and quickly left there, her heart beating fast, thinking, My Allah, how beautiful he is. This is the magical moment of love, guys. The two fell in love at first sight. But, look, for a king, you can't fall in love with a servant, and for a servant, falling in love with a sheik is something from another planet. Destiny always surprises us, doesn't it? One day, Dona Lamia was very busy and asked Aisha to bring Zyan some juice. She thought it wouldn't be a problem. After all, she had already been in the king's presence when she cleaned the clothes of a visiting nobleman. But Aisha was super nervous about this task. When she was taking the juice tray to the table, she ended up dropping it on the floor. It was a riot. Zyan, seeing what happened, asked, "Are you okay, Aisha?" He was worried as she picked up the pieces of the broken jar. "Yes, sir, it was just an oversight on my part," she replied, keeping her gaze down to hide the emotion she was feeling. But Zyan couldn't ignore the strange feeling that came over him at that moment. There was something about Aisha that intrigued him, something that went beyond his beauty and elegance. Even though at first he doubted his feelings for Aisha, Zyan began to see her with different eyes. As they grew closer, Zyan discovered aspects of her that he had never noticed before, awakening intense and conflicting feelings within him. Meanwhile, Aisha struggled with her own feelings. She knew that falling in love with Zyan was risky and forbidden, but the attraction between them was irresistible. As Aisha and Zyan were brought together by different circumstances, the attraction between them grew, even as they both tried to resist. The housekeeper Lamia suddenly fell ill and asked Aisha to take her place for a few days. This meant that Aisha would have to deal directly with Zyan whenever he needed any service. This contact made all attempts to avoid each other go down the drain. He was afraid of losing the poise of a sovereign, while she struggled not to let herself be carried away by attraction. Aware of the desire he felt for Aisha, Zyan called her to his quarters one night, saying that she needed tea before bed. Aisha was excited and nervous. After all, she was entering the most intimate place in the Sheik's palace. She presented herself before him and he greeted her with a seductive smile, saying, "You are a stunning vision, Aisha," Zyan said, looking at her and picking up the teacup. While Zyan sipped the tea, Aisha kept her head down, preventing him from seeing the love reflected in her eyes. When he finished, composing himself, he said, "Well, I think it's time for you to go." But her mind and heart screamed for her to stay. "You know it is not proper for a young and beautiful maid to be in a sheik's room at such a time," he added. At that moment, she looked at him. "I understand, Lord," Aisha replied, very nervous, but full of courage, "but if I could, I wish I could be a noblewoman now." He was surprised by her response and asked, "Why, Aisha?" For the first time, she looked into his eyes and, driven by an unknown courage, replied, "To have the right to be caressed by you, my lord." These words to a man who had held back from kissing her before were an irresistible invitation. He wrapped her in his arms and kissed her warmly. After their first kiss, Aisha would sneak into Zyan's quarters every night, as they both knew they could not show their feelings openly, as love between them was forbidden and would be frowned upon by everyone. While Aisha and Zyan struggled to understand their forbidden feelings, behind-the-scenes counselors worked to ensure their love didn't work out. In the halls of the palace, this jealous advisor plotted to keep Aisha away from Zyan. Afraid of losing his influence over the ruler, he manipulated situations to make Zyan believe that Aisha posed a threat to his reign. "Your affection for this maid is a danger to the kingdom, my lord," trying to plant seeds of doubt in the sheik's mind. "She is just a servant, with no right to titles or riches. If this love continues, it will only bring problems and confusion." But Zyan wasn't going to let the counselor's words destroy what he felt for Aisha. "I know how we feel about each other. Nothing will separate us. If she needs a title of nobility to marry me and be accepted by everyone, I'll create one myself." Zyan then called the clerk and gave orders to make Aisha the sheik's chosen one. When he learned of his beloved's action, tears flooded Aisha's eyes. She looked at him with a mixture of surprise and joy. "And I love you, Zyan, more than I ever thought possible." Zyan held her hands firmly and said, "I don't care about social conventions, Aisha." Treated with respect and admiration by others in the palace. The other maids looked at her with curiosity and sometimes envy, but Aisha remained humble and kind, winning the hearts of many. Meanwhile, Zyan was determined to protect the love they shared. He began to include Aisha in important meetings and taught her about the affairs of the kingdom. She learned quickly and surprised everyone with her intelligence and compassion. People began to see her not just as the Sheik's chosen, but as a true leader alongside Zyan. And so, under the glow of the stars in the desert, Aisha, once just a servant and now known as the Sheik's chosen, exchanged vows of eternal love with him. They were ready to face the future together, united by the strong bond of true love. Together, they would face the challenges that life had in store for them, confident that, with love and courage, they would overcome any obstacle and live happily ever after. If you liked this love story in the desert, don't forget to leave a like. Enjoy and come and discover other exciting stories that I share on my channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any enchanting stories. Thanks for watching and see you next time.